Katanchana smrite yasmin duskaram sukaram bhavet Vismrite viparitam sya Shri Chaitanya namamitam Yonta pravishya mama vachamimam prasuptan Sanjivayata kila shakti dhara swadhamna Anyam shahasta charana shravana tvagadim Pranam namo bhagavate purushaya tubhyam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our weekly discussions on Srimad Bhagavatam. Grateful to all of you for coming and showing interest to study Srimad Bhagavatam systematically. It will be very nice if, as you come for these classes, you also have access to the Bhagavatam verses that we are reading and discussing, because that will help you understand better. So please do come with Bhagavatam, either on your phone or on the hard copy. That will be nice. So I'll give a brief background of where we are so that we are on the same page. So we have started the fifth chapter. We are about to complete the fifth chapter of the first canto now. But the background is like this. Narada Muni, the spiritual master of Vyasadeva, is telling him the power of Krishna consciousness. He's telling him the power of Bhakti Yoga. And after having explained to him how Bhakti is very potent, he wants to give a case study, because we are in postmodern world where case studies are very powerful. And especially when you tell your own personal story, then it has a bigger effect, more impactful. So Narad Muni wants to share his own story of how Krishna consciousness really works. So he begins by explaining how he was, in the previous life, he was a son of a maid servant, and he had a very humble background. But his mother was serving great devotees of Krishna, and he was assisting his mother in service to them. And because of that, he got their blessings. And last time we discussed how what really worked for him was he got their prasadam, their Mahaprasad, and he heard Krishna Katha from them. He gave up doing frivolous activities, and how they were very merciful, they were very kind. So we discussed the power of blessings last time, how blessings play an important role. We discussed the story of Giriraj Maharaj and other examples. And then we saw how these impartial Bhakti Vedantis, they taught him deeper sciences of Bhakti Yoga. And finally, when they were leaving, they gave him the most confidential knowledge, which is very, very rarely understood and discussed. And in text number 31 also, which we discussed last time, we heard, we'll chant this verse again, where the result of all this knowledge is what? What will happen as a result of this knowledge which little Narada received from these pure devotees of Krishna? So you can please repeat after me text number 31. And today, for all the verses we chant, one of you will have to read translations. Who will read the translations today? You can read today, okay? So we'll start. Please repeat after me. Text number 31. Yenevaham bhagavato vasudevasya vedasa mayanubhavam avidam yena gachanti tatpadam.
By that confidential knowledge, I could understand clearly the influence of the energy of Lord Sri Krishna, the creator, maintainer, and annihilator of everything. By knowing that, one can return to him and personally.
So basically, you could understand material, spiritual, all kinds of realizations he got. Basically, he got a knowledge by which he could attain to the abode of the Lord. Yena gachanti tatpadam means he can go back to Krishna. You can go back to Krishna. So now verse 32 to 36. Now the next 5 verses. Narad Muni is going to speak about that these Bhakti Vedantis did not simply give him knowledge of Bhakti. They also taught him something else. This is interesting. After giving him the highest knowledge, they also gave him something else. Generally we say, no, if you come to Hare Krishna, you are the highest. But after getting the highest, he got something else. What is that? That is what we will discuss now. So text number 32. You can please Repeat. Etat samsuchitam brahmam tapatraya chikitsitam yadishvare bhagavati karma brahmani bhavitam.
O Brahmana Vyasadeva, it is decided by the learned that the best remedial measure for removing all troubles and miseries is to dedicate one's activities to the service of the Supreme Lord Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna.
So basically, he learned that it's not simply we have to go back to Krishna, but what we are doing in this world, in this life, we can dedicate all those activities to Krishna. Like if you are a student, you could study and remember Krishna. If you are working, you could work and remember Krishna. See, basically, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, while explaining this section, he says that, see, after teaching Narada the most confidential Bhakti Yoga, these pure devotees also taught him Jnana Yoga, the knowledge aspect about, although he didn't ask them, they taught him about how to dedicate one's activities to Krishna, how to, because see, they felt that he's a small boy now. If you just tell him to chant Hare Krishna, that's okay, that's great. But when he grows up, he may feel that, oh, they didn't teach me knowledge, jnana. That need may arise in him. So, see, when children grow older, they develop these certain needs. When they're children, parents show us when we go to their houses. Oh, see, our son, our daughter is doing Aarti of the Lord and all these things, and they're chanting Narsim Aarti. So it's very nice. And it looks very cute also. And Prabhupada also has given a lot of instructions for how to take care of children, give them Krishna, and all that is very good. But the actual challenges happen in teenage. And there are that's like the age of rebellion or the age of transformation and the age of metamorphosis. A lot of things happen. So at that time, the child should not feel deprived. The child should not feel that, oh, I was not taught this. So therefore, so they taught him Jnana also. They taught him first how to act for Krishna, which is what we're discussing now. That dedicate your activities to Krishna. But somebody may say, serving, doing your activities, basically, karma by nature is entangling. Whenever you do any activity, you get a reaction. Something is obvious, something is not obvious. And it causes us life in samsara, threefold miseries. So how can karma by nature be good? So that is revealed in the next two verses, where Narad Muni is saying, see, they taught me how to dedicate my activities. They taught me how to work for Krishna. And this is important because this is not ordinary karma. What is the power of this karma? That is revealed now. Please chant this verse, 33rd verse. Amayo yascha bhutana jayate ena suvrata tadeva hi amayam dravyam na punati chikitsitam.
O good soul, does not a thing applied therapeutically cure a disease which was caused by that very same thing?
So this is a very beautiful logic Narad Muni is giving. Something is caused as a disease, that very thing can cause us a cure. So read the purport. I want you to read from the line which says, an expert physician. From there you can read.
An expert physician treats his patient with a therapeutic diet. For example, milk preparation sometimes cause disorder of the bowels. So the very same milk converted into curd and mixed with some other remedial ingredients cure such disorders. Similarly, the threefold miseries of material existence cannot be mitigated simply by material activity. Such activities have to be spiritualized, just as by fire, iron is made red hot, and thereby the action of fire begins. Similarly, the material conception of a thing is at once changed as soon as it is put into the service of the Lord. That is the secret of spiritual success.
Yes. So that is the secret of spiritual success. What is the secret? That you just transform what you're doing, you continue doing, but you just transform the consciousness. And he's giving the example of milk. Milk may cause disorder of the bowels, but the same milk, when you make it into yogurt and then you put some other ingredients in it, it can cure diarrhea. So similarly, action causes reaction. Action causes suffering. So if action is causing suffering, some people say, okay, let me not act now. Let me just sit quietly. But that is not possible. Everybody has to act in this world. You can't run away from action, whoever you are, because the mind is always active. In fact, the Nitis explain a very, very beautiful verse. Udyame nahi siddhyanti karyani na manorathai nahi suptasya sinhasya pravishanti mukhe mriga. Nobody can do without acting, without working. The example is given is nahi suptasya sinhasya. The lion, if he is sleeping in the jungle, pravishanti mukhe mriga, and if he keeps his mouth open, will the animal deer enter his mouth? He has to work hard for getting the deer. So similarly, everybody has to do some action, some activity. So the solution, but that activity will give reaction. So the solution is not to avoid activity. The solution is to transform the consciousness, which means dovetailing. Like, for example, right now when I'm performing an activity, I may be in the mood that how I can enjoy the unspoken subtle driving force of the operating system. Like, you have, some of you have Android, some of you have Apple, right? So that's a particular operating system. A phone can't have two operating systems. So the operating system is either I want to serve or I'm an enjoyer. Everything is for me. So whatever is the operating system, that will determine whether your karma will entangle you and give you reaction or it will liberate you. So if I'm in the consciousness of always thinking how I can serve, how I can give myself to others, then material becomes spiritual eventually. And this is not simply a Hare Krishna, people saying. If you actually study the works of many others in the outside world, who are thoughtful people, they have also glorified and they have understood the power of service. There is a very powerful book by one Wharton School business author, Adam Grant, Give and Take. It's a very powerful book. When I read it first time, I was blown away by the concept. He is not a Hare Krishna devotee. In fact, he is like a typical American, a young, prodigious, talented, precocious author, a young man, talented, brilliant, and he did analysis and research of so many organizations, so many individuals over the last 200 years, data he collected. And he classified human beings into three categories. Givers, who always like to give more than what they receive. Second, takers, who are always thinking how I can get. And third, matchers. Those who always think, oh, what I get, I will give accordingly back. And very, very amazingly, with evidences, he explains how the takers and matchers are never happy. They are never effective, and they never add value to the society as much as the givers. And this is what we have been saying all the time, So see, we can never give back more than what we receive. Like, for example, we are getting oxygen every day, morning, every night. We are getting sunlight. We are getting water. But what happens is, if I have this consciousness that I have to give this back, I have to give back, I belong to the universe, then that consciousness helps us get rid of karma, because we are connecting to the Lord. I want to give, I want to serve Krishna. Because, it is like this. Just like your body is alive right now, that's why you breathe, you have your certain bodily movements, bodily functions, your heart is beating. That means there is a soul inside this body, because of which there is life. Similarly, Srila Prabhupada would often say, this entire universe is also like, just imagine it's like a person. Why? Because this universe also, if you see, every day morning, there is a time when the sun rises. Every day in the eastern direction. Tomorrow, the sun is not going to rise from the west. Every year, there is a particular time when it rains. There's a season for summer. You see the seasons, how they change. Everything is happening according to the way the trees are growing, the flowers blossoming, the fruits, everything, the way things are happening in the nature, it shows that there is life here. This is alive. This planet, this universe is alive. So if you are alive, that means there is a soul which is adding life and value, because of which you are alive. Similarly, if this universe is alive, that means there is some soul. Just like that life force within you, which is causing life and action here in your body, is called Atma. The soul which is making this universe function is called Paramatma. So when I'm in the mood of service, I'm connecting to this force, like in the Star Wars movies, they call this as the force. So in different traditions, they call it by different words. So we know this as Paramatma. In the ancient Mexican Toltec tradition, they call it as Mito. In China, they call it Qi. So every tradition has a name for it. So the whole idea is to dovetail our consciousness into that supreme consciousness. So when we align our consciousness into the universe, because we are basically sending a message that I'm very tiny, I'm very small. I just want to serve, because I will evaporate. There are 8 billion human beings and trillions and quadrillions of other living entities. Who are we? The kind of anxieties we are carrying in our head, the kind of tension we are carrying in our head. Who cares? When you die, nothing will matter. I mean, in one sense, if you see, our lives are utterly insignificant. We are nobody. We mean nothing to anybody. But yet, there is this big universe here of I, me, mine. So the solution is just turn it into a spiritual force by always contemplating how I can give, how I can serve, how I can be an instrument of love and compassion. So therefore, this is the way we transform our activities into spiritual activities. And what happens when we offer our activities to please Krishna? That is revealed in the next verse, text number 34. Evam nrinam kriya yoga sarve samsruti hetava ta evatma vinashaya kalpante kalpita pare.
Just when all of man's activities are dedicated to the service of the Lord, those very activities which cause this perpetual bondage become the destroyer of the tree of.
So when all activities are dedicated to Krishna, they are capable of destroying karma. We chant the next verse also, it's connected. Text number 35. Yadatra kriyate karma bhagavat paritoshanam jnanam yattat adhinam hi bhakti yoga samanvitam.
Whatever work is done here in this life for the satisfaction of the mission of the Lord is called Bhakti Yoga, or transcendental loving service to the Lord. And what is called knowledge becomes a concomitant factor.
So basically what is happening is, if I'm always thinking of pleasing Krishna, that means I'm remembering Krishna. So when I remember Krishna, what happens? This is the science of Bhakti Yoga. When we remember Krishna, in whatever small things, big things you are doing, then you are touching Krishna with your mind. And Krishna then reveals in your heart and he guides you to take the right decisions. Tesham patata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam. I will give you the intelligence. Krishna says, just remember me from your side. It's like, it's just like a relationship in this world. If you love someone and you talk to that person talks to you. So there is a feedback mechanism. You share, that person reflects back. Just like in the outside world, in a gross world, it happens with the person, with the human being. The same thing happens in our inner spiritual life also. Like, I'll give an example. For example, today morning, the class was going. So the devotee was giving class, he was quoting verses, different verses from Bhagavatam, and we were all hearing. Now, some of you, one person, new person may come and you may think, oh, but this is not practical because, this Prabhuji is giving class, he's quoting so many shlokas. We call him Shlokacharya. We say he's come from Shloka Loka. And when he quotes verses, some of us count. And sometimes in his class, he quotes 85 verses, sometimes 120. Start of the class, we say, Prabhu, today you scored a century. So he loves to quote verses. So if you see somebody very new, you may think, oh, this is not practical. But if you're interested in spiritual life, if you're interested in a relationship with Krishna, then this is very practical. how when you're sitting there in the class and the speaker is speaking from the Vyasasana and chanting these verses, explaining them, the sound vibration, because Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna. Just like the holy name is Krishna, similarly, when Krishna comes in the form of a book, he's called as Bhagavatam. So when you're hearing those verses, Krishna enters our heart. I'll give an example. Like today's class, I was saying. So if somebody offends us, we should just forgive that person. We're speaking about forgiveness from a very high standard, which is like the standard of Ambarish Maharaj, all the examples from the scriptures. And you're saying things like, if somebody offends, then we should pray for that person. I mean, it was very lofty principles. Now, if I have hurt and I'm offended by someone, I will find it very impractical because I'm unable to forgive that person. I'm unable to forget that person. So I have two options. One is get up from the class and say, this is impractical, or mentally switch off. This is impractical, and not allow the sound vibration to go in. The other extreme is, oh, no, this is all completely right. Oh, yes, I have to forgive him. I have to forgive him. Krishna, forgive him. Very artificial. Again, because first one is, you are being very, you are just disconnecting from the scripture in the first step. In the second extreme, you are artificially trying to forgive someone whom you are not able to forgive. Both extremes. So ideal situation is you sit in the club and you hear such a statement. You say, Krishna, I don't understand this. This is very impractical. But please help me. I'm placing my faith. I'm placing my trust. And I'm allowing you to enter my heart in the form of sound vibration. So what you have done here, remember Krishna. Although you may not understand, although you may not accept it, but you've remembered Krishna and you offered Krishna that, Krishna, what is this? In my life, this person has offended me and I can't forgive him. And he's quoting such lofty examples. Krishna, I can't understand this. Please help me. So then what happens is, because of that sincere step we have taken to Krishna, then Krishna will reveal in our heart how to navigate through this episode of your life where you have been hurt by someone. So when you see that person, you will have Krishna will give the intelligence to be respectful and leave. One who has not heard attentively with faith, either he will fight with that person who has offended him and increase the misery of both parties, or he'll artificially go and embrace him saying that I love you, Prabhu, you are so great. And that artificiality, that person gets put off and it doesn't solve the problem. It's very superficial. And his inside is growing with resentment and there's a volcano going in the heart because he is not resolved it internally. He is a simply superficial cover-up. But the ideal thing is to, with faith, hear Krishna Katha, hear Bhagavatam classes. Then Krishna says, I will guide you. So you will have the intelligence to how to navigate. You will know that, oh, I don't want to see him now because, I'm going to get more intense. So let me respectfully avoid it. And you will slowly, eventually be able to overcome that situation, that hurt, that pain, because Krishna is taking charge of your life. So that's how it's very important to remember. So when we perform our duties like this, remembering Krishna while doing devotional service, while working in the office, like when I was working this many years ago, 1997, I'm talking about 1998. So I had my boss who was next, whose cabin was next to mine. And on his table, we were working, he had kept a huge photograph of his dog, pet, huge laminated photo. And you'd occasionally look at that photo and you'd smile. And one day I asked him and he said, oh, my pet died a few months ago. Since then, I just see this, I feel so peaceful. I was so inspired. Next day I brought Krishna's photo, Radha Gopinath's photo. And I said, if he can remember dog, I can remember God. And it just takes a minute, just pause, offer your heart, offer a prayer, and then continue. Krishna is so accessible. You're cooking, you could pause, you could remember Krishna. While you're taking prasadam, you could remember Krishna. So that's how we get, and then what happens, because you're remembering Krishna, Krishna guides us. And that's the connection, that is the explanation of this verse. That's how we get knowledge. Knowledge basically in this context means how to act, how to behave, how to live in this world. That knowledge we get from Krishna only. Otherwise, this all becomes theory. Forgive everyone, but how to practically forgive that person? How to practically deal with people? So that Krishna will guide us. You will see some people are very gracious. They know how to, they know how to, it's not diplomacy, it's just, they know how to live in this world. They are just, so that for devotees, that force, that power that helps them is Krishna. So this is revealed in text 36 also. Please repeat after me. Kurvana yatra karmani Bhagavad Chikshaya Sakrat Gnanante Gunanamani Krishnasya Anusmaranti Cha.
By performing duties according to the order of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one constantly remembers him, his names, and his qualities.
This is very similar to what is explained by Krishna to his disciple Arjuna. Just like Narada is talking to Vyasadeva, Vyasadeva is despondent, Vyasadeva is in depression, Narad Muni is helping him. Same way Arjuna was in depression, and his guru Krishna teaches him in Bhagavad Gita. And just like this verse, there is a similar verse in 9th chapter of Gita, 36th verse. Same verse. Means the words are different. Yat karoshi yadashnashi, yajjuoshi dadasiyat, yat tapasyasi kaunteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. Whatever you do, Arjuna, whatever activities you perform, whatever you eat, you offer it to me. Remember me. So therefore, Narad Muni is telling Vyasadeva that it's very easy to practice bhakti. My teachers taught me that remember Krishna, hear about Krishna, take prasad. And they taught me also other things on how to remember Krishna, how to offer my activities to Krishna, practically, not just going back home, back to God. And then now the last 4 verses of this chapter, Narad Muni is going to share something very private. That, I was given a mantra and I was chanting that mantra, like they have been given Hare Krishna mantra. So Narad Muni, thousands and thousands of years ago, is telling what the pure devotees told him, how they made him chant, what he did. So that is revealed in the text 37, 38, 39, and 40. So 37th verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam Vasudevaya Dhimahi Pradyumna Aniruddhaya Namaha Sankarshanaya Cha.
Let us all chant the glories of Vasudeva along with this plenary expansion, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Shankarshan.
So he's saying, this is the mantra he was chanting. And what personal experience Narad Muni had because of chanting this mantra? Sorry, before that, he also says about one who chants this mantra, what happens to him? That is text number 38. Iti murti abhidanena mantra murti mamurtikam yajate yagya purusham sasamyak darshana puma.
Thus, he is the actual sphere who worships in the form of transcendental sound representation, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, who has no material form.
And what personal experience Narada had because of chanting this mantra? That is 39 and 40. Imam swanigamam brahman avetya madanushtitam adan me jnanam aishwaryam swasmin bhavam cha keshava.
Brahmana, just by the Supreme Lord Krishna, I was endowed first with the transcendental knowledge of the Lord as inculcated in the confidential parts of the Vedas, then with the spiritual opulences, and then with his intimate loving service.
So basically, Krishna gave Narada 3 things. Jnanam, transcendental knowledge. He got Aishwaryam, spiritual opulences, Siddhis, and he also got ultimately Swasmin Bhavam, which means intimate loving service of Krishna. Therefore, the conclusion of this chapter, this is the last verse we are going to chant for today. When Narada says, my dear disciple, the conclusion of what I'm trying to say is glorify Krishna, remember Krishna, don't hesitate. And that is this beautiful last verse of this chapter. Please repeat. Vama pabadra shrutavishrutam vibho samapyate ena vidam bhugutsitam prakhyai dukkhe murarditatmana sanklesha nirvanamushanti nanyata.
Please therefore describe the Almighty Lord's activity, which you have learned by your vast knowledge of the Vedas, for that will satisfy the hankerings of great learned men, and at the same time mitigate the miseries of the masses of common people who are always suffering from material pain. Indeed, there is no other way to get out of such misery.
So here is saying Sanklesha Nirvanam, this misery, the hankering, the suffering, that will go away. So now this chapter has ended very beautifully. Yes, very emphatically said you have to glorify Krishna. And he's told his own story. But he's not told his complete story. I just told about how these great devotees came, they gave him Hare Krishna, they spoke about Krishna, he served them. But movies don't have generally, movies are not like, good movies or good novels don't simply have only good things happen. So far, so good. But what happened now? They left. The Bhaktivedanta is left. So does he now live with his mother happily, just doing devotional service? After they left, he continued staying with his mother. But now the story has a twist. Interval is over. Now after the interval, the movie will continue. So what will happen now? Is life going to be smooth like that because he's doing bhakti, he got initiation, and generally we think now there will be no problems. No. That we'll have to come next week for that. But Narad Muni is going to reveal how life is not easy. Many times devotees think, if I get initiation, all problems will be solved. Actually, Vrindavan was very peaceful before Krishna took birth. After Krishna appeared, so many demons started coming. So that we will discuss next week, what happened with Narada's life. But what we have discussed so far in this chapter, at least in today's section, are two very important themes, which we need to remember. One is getting knowledge of various aspects, and in all this knowledge, remembering Krishna, or whatever activities we do, remember Krishna. And secondly, in the end, towards the end, Narada is emphatically saying, chanting of the Lord's holy names and glorifying Krishna will mitigate the miseries of the heart. These are the two very important lessons that are coming out very emphatically in this section. Because many devotees have this issue. Prabhu, I'm coming to Hare Krishna temple, I'm doing devotional service. But what about my family? What about my responsibilities? What about my business? So many other things. So sometimes devotees, they think Krishna will take care. And they ignore basic things about health, yoga, exercises, or the need to learn new skills, or relationships with other people, in the name of only doing devotional service. And sometimes you are so occupied with the devotional service, sometimes you're so occupied with other things that we ignore Krishna consciousness. That extreme. So therefore, devotees generally, if you see those who are like peaceful devotees, those are kind of sorted, we say, they know what's happening in their life. They generally are intelligently taking care of four needs, because all human beings have this. Whatever you see, it all boils down to these four things. If we can take care of these four, then our lives will be smoothly going ahead. The first is the physical needs. Physical needs refers to your health, exercise, rest, roti, kapda, makan, basic needs by which you can survive in this world. Physical needs, devotees have to take responsibility to take care of that. Right? Health, especially as we get older, we realize when we are young, we sacrifice our health for getting wealth. And as we get older, we give up the wealth to get back the health. So health is a big thing. Like in many classes, we ask, especially when we're preaching to children or youth, we ask them. So what do you call a person who is a specialist? What do you call a doctor who is a specialist in curing heart diseases? Somebody says cardiologist. What do you call somebody who specializes in brain? Neurosurgeon. What do you call somebody who takes care of the bones? Dermatologist. Orthopedic. Dermatologist क्या? Skin. What do you call a doctor who specializes in skin diseases? Dermatologist. So like that, So you take all the names. For the eyes, what do you call the doctor? Ophthalmologist, like that. ENT specialist. So after all that, in the end you say, so what does this prove? This proves that this body is filled with diseases. Body is filled with problems. That is why so many doctors are there. So many specialists are there. Why? Because there is problem. So the reality is that life is very tough. So we can't ignore this reality that life is full of suffering. At the same time, to make our lives sober, we need to take care of our physical needs. Then also mental needs. Mental needs means a sense of achieving, sense of doing. Everybody has this need, wanting to, they have a need to like, you may call it ego need or whatever, but then we have a need to do something tangible that you can't avoid. Like if, like, if I had not joined the ashram, I would be earning money. I don't want to do things. So when I joined the ashram, that passion, that energy was there. So then I was given the service of book distribution. So I have to go out and distribute books in the trains, the local trains of Mumbai, make announcements, and then sell the books. So those beggars and those comb sellers, pen sellers, they thought I'm one of them. So they would come and exchange, they would say, "Chuta hai kya Maharaj, ye hai kya?" So they would say, "Kitna kama lete isme." So I didn't want to disappoint them. So I would make them happy by playing on with them, and then I would come back with the score, sometimes 100 books, 150 books, and I would feel a sense of great satisfaction, the sense of achievement, that I did it. So as I would walk empty, the bag would be empty, from Grand Road station, I would walk to the temple. I would walk as if a cricket batsman is coming after scoring a century. He's coming back to the pavilion. I would come back, I would be flying, and I would be so happy. My mental needs are satisfied because I was doing something tangible. I was doing, the doing need is there. So anyway, that sense of achievement, so that my mind is taken, mind becomes peaceful. So health, physical needs, mental needs, and there is emotional needs, which basically to love and to be loved. Everybody has this need. So that relationship is all about relationships. That is emotional. And then there is the spiritual needs, which is you and Krishna, you and God. So when somebody takes care of all the four, it's not that every day you can take care of all four. That's not the point. The point is, over a period of time, you are taking care of all these four aspects, then your life more or less, life is peaceful. You know that, okay, one of these areas is getting affected. And you do the needful, whatever is needed, you do. But at the end of the day, the most important of all these four is spiritual needs. Why? Because how much ever you take care of your health, everything is going to go down one day. And whatever sense of achievement you feel, a time will come when you can't work, when you can't go out for book distribution, your legs, your body will be bedridden. Time will come when you'll be humbled. Some of the best sportsmen, great people, they all have become old. They all have failed. And then emotional needs also. How much ever you try to get this world, people, how much ever you try to improve relationships and do all of that, at the end of it, you will feel that this person doesn't understand me. There is something, misunderstandings, and I've seen the best of the people, they have relationship issues. Like I arranged one, I was preaching in Borivali, this congregation preaching I started. And a lot of young couples started coming, and I was new in congregation preaching. So I told one very senior marriage counselor, was professional marriage counselors, this couple. I asked them, can you come to my program and address our group and tell them, because there are a lot of couples coming, they're married, young people, and I don't have that skill set, knowledge. So they said, okay, so what do you want us to speak? I said, there will be 100 people in the program. So you can tell them about how to be happy in married life. They looked at each other and they said, we have been married for 45 years and we're not happy. So then I was like, for me, that was a shock. I said, I saw that, yeah. Then I said, okay, then maybe you can talk and give a talk on how, this couple, they can be in Grihastha Ashram and how they can understand each other and how they can. So they again looked at each other and they smiled and they said, see, we have been together for 45 years. I don't think I've understood my wife completely. I don't think she has understood me. Life is a challenge, There is a saying, na, दो ही तरह के लोग बड़े हसरत से एक दूसरे को देखते हैं. Hasrat means that eagerness or whatever, that wow feeling. क्या दो ही तरह के लोग बड़े हसरत से एक दूसरे को देखते हैं. एक शादीशुदा लोग कुंवारों को और कुंवारे शादीशुदाओं को. That is the reality of this world. The bachelor's thing. Srila Prabhupada, morning I was hearing his class. He says, दिल्ली का लड्डू जो खाए वो भी पछता है, जो नहीं खाए वो भी पछता है. So Prabhupada was talking about that in the context of sex life. You are saying that those who engage in it, they are also miserable, and those who don't engage in it, they are also. So basically, the material world is made in such a way that you can't get happiness. So you may take care of your physical needs, mental needs, emotional needs, and you will feel somewhere a vacuum. Because without Krishna, that's what the whole Vyasdev is despondent, because there was no Krishna. Ultimately, Krishna is the main thing. But the problem is sometimes the name of Krishna, we become like that ostrich who puts the head in the sand. We live in denial. We don't take care of our basic needs, and then we falsely blame Krishna afterward. Krishna didn't take care of my needs. So I know some devotees, they're very intelligent, they are very, we say in the lectures that make Krishna the center of your life. Krishna should be everything. There are some very mature devotees I know. They came and told me very secretly, personally, Prabhu, Krishna, I don't know whether he's the center of my life, but I have a very good relationship with Krishna. My life is like a circle. And in that circle, there are many things: health, job, family, son, all that. And there is one thing, Krishna also. Krishna is not the center, but Krishna is one of the many things of my life. So when I'm with Krishna, I ignore all the other aspects. So I tell my wife, I'm going to temple now for next 4 hours. No phone call. I'm not going to receive your call. I tell my son, beta, abhi main nahi hu available. I tell my office people, so I'm with Krishna. When I'm with my job, when I'm doing my work, I tell Krishna, Krishna, abhi main ye kaam kar raha hu, abhi mere ko mandir ka kuch kaam nahi aayega. I'm not going to be involved. So basically, he's kind of sorted his life. He says when he's with Krishna, he's given priority to Krishna, but Krishna got everything for him. So he said, rather than making Krishna everything, I have made Krishna something in my life. And eventually, I thought Krishna will take over one day. He said, yeah, I will wait for that day. But right now, Krishna is one of the many things for me. So that's being a little smart and practical. So that way we can move forward. And that way we can make our lives more, more peaceful. Otherwise, artificially, we chant like somebody comes new. Somebody came new to my program, and I would tell them, chant 1 round, 2 rounds, start chanting Hare Krishna. So next week I said, so all of you are chanting? Yes. How many rounds are chanting? I'm chanting 2 rounds, 4 rounds, and one person said, I'm chanting 32 rounds. So I got really shaken because I said, I knew I was not ready for it, but how can a preacher? I don't have the mandate to say chant less. I'm supposed to be saying chant more. So after the class, I told him, "Thoda kam karo yaar, 32 बहुत ज़्यादा." नहीं, Prabhu, Krishna सब कुछ है. And as I feared, after some days he didn't chant at all. Bhakti organically करना चाहिए. Krishna consciousness organically has to grow. See, just like in nature, everything happens organically, right? But what happens, many of us, we take up to the process as if it's like fast food is different from healthy cooked food, right? Fast food chahiye humko. Fast. Today is a fast age. Everything has to happen fast. But in nature, things happen slow and they happen gradually. How does the sun rise? The sun rises at there is rhythm, there is beauty, there is grace, how do seasons change? Now winter is going to come. Slowly, अभी ऊंधियो बनाएंगे गुजराती लोग. वो कहाँ से आता है ऊंधियो? साल भर नहीं देते. उसमें कुछ सब्जी लगता है. वो सब्जी विंटर में ही आता है. उसका टाइम रहता है. And then slowly, it's not that one day suddenly you start feeling cold. So you can feel it. And summer season, before the rains come, you will see few days, wind will blow, the clouds will gather slowly. And how do you become old? It's not that one day you get up and suddenly you feel you are an old person. It happens slowly, right? Suddenly one day you realize, अरे क्या हो गया? नहीं, slowly you got body pain हो रहा है. आपको समझता है कि आप बूढ़े हो रहे. तो similarly, भक्ति भी वैसे ही होता है. Renunciation भी वैसे आता है. Renunciation is also organic. After years, lifetimes of bhakti, one develops natural detachment from family and everything, and then eventually goes to Vrindavan, does bhajan, takes vanaprastha with his wife, and they do Krishna conscious activities together. But to suddenly do it, it's like, you want light. It's pitch dark in the night. You switch on and suddenly light, you get light. But in nature, light doesn't come like that. But because they're living in an artificial setup, we want everything fast and instantaneous. So we are used to renunciation also like that. Bhagavatam says, be detached. Bhagavatam is filled with statements. Detach, renounce everything. So that is, we have to hear it humbly. Like I told that example of the Bhagavatam class where the speaker was speaking about forgiveness. So like that, when you hear Bhagavatam saying that material life is a dark well of suffering and you're a grahastha, you should hear, sahi bol rahe ho. And that doesn't mean you go home and leave everything. Because that's not practical. You hear it, become humble. Look, Sukdev Goswami is giving a lot of gali in Bhagavatam. भर के डांटते रहते. You are attached. You are a dog. You are a camel. You are an ass. You are a pig. तो सुनने का बस. And then allow Krishna to enter your heart and inspire that renunciation. Not that you suddenly, what happens many times, because we don't want to take responsibility in life. तो हम भागवतम के कंधे के ऊपर बंदूक रख के फिर गोली कर चला. अरे भागवतम में बोला है. Then we want to absolve ourselves of the responsibilities, and then we live a very unnatural lifestyle, and then years later we suffer. Because it comes back to haunt us. If we have led an incongruent life, an inauthentic life, it's going to disturb us. So therefore, we do whatever we need to do to take care of our physical, mental, emotional needs, while knowing that spiritual needs is the foundation and it is the essence of it. So this is what this section is talking about, where Narad Muni is telling Vyasa that Krishna is everything, and also remember Krishna, offer everything to Krishna, chant Hare Krishna, and remember Krishna as you're performing your activities. And then what happened after this Bhakti Vedanta is left? Narad Muni is going to continue the story. Something very tragic will happen. And then how Narad Muni addresses that situation. Remember, he's a young 5-year-old boy. So that we will discuss next time. So I'll pause here. Any questions or comments regarding today's class? You could take now. Okay, thank you very much for your kind attention. Please take prasadam before you leave. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We'll meet next Tuesday. Hare Krishna.